Welcome to the All Eers podcast, powered by HD Media.
Hi, all. Welcome into a new edition of the All Eers podcast, a WVU sports-based podcast here at HD Media and the Charleston Gazette-Mail. Over the last few weeks, we've been doing twice a week that led up to the conclusion of spring football practice that happened this past Saturday inside Milan Puskar Stadium. And with the Gold and Blue Spring festivities, if you haven't already, go to our website, wvgazettemail.com. Check all that out. We'll have a couple more stories funneling out throughout the remainder of the week. But now we're going into once a week now. And last week I mentioned this with Honor Huff, and we appreciate him. If you haven't already, go back and listen to that. But I mentioned how we're going from twice a week to once a week now, leading up until August when football kicks back off again. So what we're going to do during the summer is get some former Mountaineers, former coaches as well, along with some current personalities as well, and just kind of reminisce, talk about the past when we're talking with these former coaches and players as well. So a lot to get into throughout the course of the summer. I'm really excited about this. Got a lot of great athletes and former coaches on tap, so you will not want to miss it. Be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Gazmail Sports, that's G-A-Z Mail Sports, and on Facebook, HD Media Sports. I messed up the Twitter. It's Gazmail Sports, G-A-Z Mail Sports, and then YouTube, HD Media Game Day. Well, to kick this off with our summer interview series, we are pleased to be joined by former Mountaineer forward, former Morgantown Mohegan, Nathan Adrian. Nathan, welcome to the program.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me down here.
My man, you've been a busy man. You talked about how you're in the marina life now. Give everybody a speed up to date of what you're up to and how's everything going with the life of Nathan Adrian.
Yeah, so got done playing last May, got home from Japan, decided I was ready to be home full-time now, and now me and my brother own a marina. It's Patterson Boat Company up in Deep Creek Lake. So, get to work with my brother every day, and we have a good time.
Now, no fighting in regards to the business now. I know sometimes brothers, I got a brother myself, a little back and forth every now and again. That good?
Nah, we're doing pretty good so far.
Well, good deal, man. You mentioned your professional career, and let's kind of start there. Ending in Japan. I know you played in Italy for a while. You had your dual citizenship as well. When you look back on your professional career, what's your biggest takeaway from being able to go overseas, play in some really unique places, but also be able to play in countries like Italy and Japan as well?
Yeah, it was a good experience just to kind of see the world. Got to travel, got to see a lot of things that otherwise I wouldn't be able to do it, and I got to do it while doing something I love to do. So I find myself extremely fortunate that I got the opportunity. It's not something that growing up or, pretty much any time I ever thought I would be able to do, and the fact that I did it for a few years and get to come back, and I don't know, just a lot of good takeaways from it, to be honest.
Did you ever have like a cultural shock? Because I know sometimes when guys go overseas to play, it's almost like night and day difference between playing in the U.S. to playing overseas, whether it be in Europe or in Asia as well. Did you ever have that cultural shock at all?
Outside of basketball more than anything, to be honest with you. Just trying to get used to different languages, trying to get used to different ways of doing anything. Like even going into a grocery store, you got to kind of scope it out the first time you're in a new country to figure out how they handle things, how the checkout works, how getting produce works. There's just a lot of different things that you got to get used to.
Big on ramen over there in Japan, or what was your go-to meal?
Oh, man. A lot of ramen. You know what? Honestly, Uber Eats was my best friend.
Shout out to Uber Eats. What about Italy? Any go-to there?
Yeah, Italy was my favorite food by far. Just pasta. And you could eat it. I ate probably a pound of pasta every day. Lost weight. It's a little different. I don't know how. Don't tell me how, but you could eat it all you want. You'd never gain weight. It's perfect.
I wish I was there. You go to like Olive Garden or shout out to like Colasante's or anything. Great food, but man, that's filling afterwards. I'll tell you that much.
Heavy on stomach.
Yeah. Now, Italian-wise, up in Morgantown, being a guy from North Central West Virginia, the Italian scene up there is also really strong. Muriel's, Colasante's. Man, I night and day difference probably, but you got to give a shout out to them. Those are always good establishments.
Absolutely, man. We're actually very spoiled. You can go pretty much anywhere in this country. I'd put our Italian up there with a lot of outside New York and the Little Italy's, everything like that. But we got a great little Italian community right where we are.
What's your go-to?
Colasante's.
Ooh, good plug. Good Colasante's too. Sean went there a couple times talking to producer. Sean went there a couple times. Very good food. Very good food, as he gives the okay. But when you look back on that, I know sometimes the people have coined the phrase, there's always a West Virginia connection. Did you ever encounter one of those, whether it be playing or off the court, just strolling around in Italy or Japan? Did you ever have like a West Virginia connection at all?
Yeah, in Japan, actually. I got over there, and our trainer was a Japanese guy who graduated from WVU and trained under the famous Doc Matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So what was that like, just being able to connect with him, reminisce a little bit? What was that like?
It was good. You know, you're going to a completely new country for me. I was in Italy for 3 years simultaneously before that, so I kind of got comfortable there, and then going to another new country, it was like the first time all over again, kind of. So just good to see somebody who you could talk to, and, you know, there's familiar things you could bond over, so it's always a nice connection to have.
I know oftentimes when talking with people that maybe played overseas or even went and studied abroad, if they don't know anybody, they may feel a little separated from just life itself. Did you ever have that moment where, whether it be in Italy or in Japan, where you just felt disconnected and you just, I don't really want to say homesick, but you just felt like you were missing home more so that you didn't really know anybody?
Oh, absolutely. Especially my first 2 years. So my first year in France, I was the only American, so it was just me and all French guys. So I didn't have like that other American to go to lean on to, you know, go figure things out together. So I had to do it all on my own, and definitely that makes it a little bit tougher. But once you get into leagues where you're like in Italy, I had 6 other Americans with me. You know, you kind of get a group, and the whole team just kind of does a lot more together, where it's a little bit more comfortable.
How did that affect you mentally then? Because obviously, you know, you're so invested in the basketball, but then just whenever you have that downtime, how does that, or did that affect you mentally at all?
Oh, absolutely. It's tough. Something a lot of people don't think about is that you're spending a lot of time alone. You know, you're busy, but you practice hour and a half in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. Outside of that, you got to fill all your time. So you got a lot of time to just sit there and kind of be lonely, to be honest with you. It was tough for a while, but you get used to it. Like anything, you kind of adapt and find ways to fill your time, find new activities, go see some new things, and find a way to enjoy it.
When talking with some of your teammates, did you ever get to a point where you felt really close to a guy before you even started, or even whenever you ended? Did you feel that you got closer with those guys throughout the course of that season? And if so, how does that happen? Is that more on the court relationships, or is that more off the court, being able to spend time with these guys? And especially whenever you're in Italy, like you said, you're playing with at least 6 guys, but 6 American guys, I should say. How does that relationship and that bond work?
I think the teams that bond the most, obviously you're going to spend every day together, so there's that aspect of it. But the teams that work the best are the ones that are going to spend time outside of basketball, doing other things, going out in the community, getting some drinks together, having fun together. So, I mean, that's when you can really talk and learn about each other. That's when you start to form the friendship and that bond that goes a long way once you're back on the court.
In regards to what basketball looks like overseas, I know a lot of those European players like the Lukas, the Nikola Jokic's of the world that are in the NBA, but you were able to see what Euro basketball is like and what basketball is like in Asia as well. What's basketball like, and biggest thing that separates American basketball from basketball in Europe and in Asia?
The biggest difference is how they are brought up. You know, now in America, you're brought up, you play, God, I don't even know how many games they play. When I was playing every weekend. So we'd have 4 or 5 games a day, 3-4 days a week. You might practice once. Over there is completely different. Even their youth sports, they practice every single day. They might have 1 game a week where they're going to go play a different club or something like that. So they really just have a lot more time to focus on fundamentals and learning the game and doing things properly, as opposed to just going out and learn how to play.
I know in recent years, people have always had the discussion, is everything outside the U.S. eventually going to surpass the U.S. just in regards to basketball talent, basketball level as well? Being able to see it firsthand from both sides of the aisle, do you think that statement's true? Because I know in the Olympics we saw like Serbia, France as well have really good teams that were on the verge of beating the U.S., but then the U.S. ultimately prevailed. Do you feel that Europe is slowly gaining more of an even playing field with the U.S. in regards to basketball?
Yeah, but I don't know It's hard to pinpoint exactly why. I believe it's just the growing popularity of the game. Soccer is obviously by far the most popular sport over there, but right behind that is basketball. I think just the popularity of the game and kids over there wanting to play basketball from a young age and developing and just doing it their whole life. I think that's coming a long way for them. And, I mean, honestly, if you put all of Europe together against all of America, I don't think it's that big of a gap, if a gap at all, anymore.
One final question before we go to break. Do you think with the rise in popularity in basketball and with soccer, did you ever go to it? Well, let me say it like this. Did you ever go to a soccer match at all over there?
I didn't. I wanted to all the time, but like I said, most of soccer and basketball play just once a weekend. So usually on Sundays, there's either a soccer game or a basketball game, or even if they had like a Saturday game, I couldn't go out the night before and go to the soccer game because I had a game Sunday. So the opportunity never really presented itself for me to get to one.
So then along that line, you mentioned the youth league side of things. What are the Europeans doing from a youth league perspective that you feel the U.S. is lacking?
I think it's just the focus on, how do I put this? The focus on practicing and developing, but they have a completely different system, whereas, we have high school teams and middle school teams, and then you go play on your AU team. Over there, they don't have high school sports or youth sports like that. Like the individual professional clubs have youth teams as well. Right. So if you're from a town, you're going to play for the one club. So everybody goes and plays there so that they have more opportunities to practice and more opportunities for them to learn, honestly.
We're talking with Nathan Adrian, former Mountaineer forward and former Morgantown Mohegan here on the All Ears podcast. We're going to take a break real quick. We'll get back. We'll talk about Nathan's upbringing in Morgantown and in North Central West Virginia coming up here on the All Ears podcast.
As the game gets faster, stronger, more dynamic, your equipment has to keep up. Introducing the Riddell Axiom, the next evolution in football protection, designed to match the speed and strength of today's athlete. Contact West Virginia Riddell Representative Casey Turley at 304-552-5960. Gear up, play smart, stay protected.
HD Media Sports is your one-stop destination for top high school and college sports coverage in the Mountain State. From Morgantown to Mingo County, our award-winning reporters keep you informed about your favorite teams and players, including exclusive coverage of the Marshall Thundering Herd and the West Virginia Mountaineers. Follow HD Media Sports on Facebook to stay up to date on the latest news, features, and game coverage.
Rolling along here on the All Ears podcast, I'm your host, Taylor Kennedy. Thank you all for joining us. You can follow me on Twitter at Taylor_Kennedy7. That's on X or Twitter, as they call it nowadays. But we're talking with Nathan Adrian, former Mountaineer forward. And Nathan, going back to your upbringing there up in Morgantown and Monongalia County, what was basketball like for you at an early age? And when did you start to understand that basketball was something you wanted to continue to pursue and get better at?
Not until later than most people, honestly. Probably not until I was definitely in high school. Probably not until I was a sophomore, honestly. Basketball before that was just a sport I played. Played baseball, played football. I didn't focus on it until, later in middle school, early high school. I think playing multiple sports and getting the freedom to enjoy everything as a kid is more beneficial than just focusing on one sport.
So if Nathan Adrian ended up not playing basketball, what would the sport Nathan Adrian would have played instead of basketball?
Football. Being a kid, that was always my favorite sport to play. I was most sad whenever football season ended.
What position did you play?
Quarterback.
When did you hit your growth spurt, by the way?
Oh, I never really had like 1 year where I sprouted up.
So you were what, like 6'8", 6'9"?
6'9". I guess it's pretty early. I was 6'7" when I was a freshman in 8th grade. So, I got there pretty early. It was a pretty steady climb there, though. I never had 1 year I grew 6 inches.
So so being a tall quarterback, you could probably just see right over the offensive and defensive line, no problem.
Yeah, that was never an issue.
Now, I will say this on the record. I've said this before. Pony Lewis Field in the fall, best football atmosphere and stadium in West Virginia. I'll say it publicly.
I'm biased, but I agree. It's hard to beat that school just wrapping around the whole field. I don't think there's probably not many places in the country that look like that.
Oh, 100%. In the way that it looks and the feeling that you get, I think it's the best probably in this region and maybe even just from a state perspective. I mean, it's unmatched.
It is.
You mentioned when basketball started becoming more serious for you around your sophomore year. Was there something that occurred that light switch just kind of just flicked on, or was it just more of a realization of, hey, I see potential here, let's try and focus and put all of our eggs in that basket?
It's more of a lack of time. I guess I knew that basketball was going to be the path that got me, to college, got me a scholarship, got me, what I wanted out of it. So if that was what I wanted, then there wasn't enough time to do the other things. You start having to do it year-round. You start having to travel for AAU, so that takes away your most of May, June, and July, so you can't really do football practice. And then if you play football, that runs into the high school season. So, it was just basically having to make the decision that this is what I was going to do and stick with it.
Now, being a multi-sport athlete, you mentioned playing baseball, football, ultimately ending up playing basketball. What's your advice then to younger athletes, maybe even younger high schoolers like freshmen and sophomore, whenever you realize basketball is a sport for you? What's your message to those that play multiple sports and they're trying to figure out what's that one sport that I feel like I'm the best at, rather than putting and playing and spending so much time in all these other sports? What's your message?
Honestly, I'd say pick the one that you have the most fun doing. At the end of the day, not everybody's going to have the opportunity to play in college. And if you're not having fun doing it, you're definitely not going to, because the amount of commitment and time and effort that it takes, if you don't really enjoy it, it's not worth doing.
So similar question I asked about when basketball started becoming serious. When did the recruiting landscape then suddenly become more of a thing for you? You started getting a couple of letters. You started getting a lot more interest just for your size and your overall game. When did that start flowing in consistently?
Consistently, probably after my freshman year. In 8th grade, I started playing for a AAU team out of Charleston, the West Virginia Wildcats, and that was the first time I ever traveled outside of the region to play in tournaments. So we were going Orlando, Indiana, Vegas. We were playing all the big national tournaments, and that was the first time that I'd ever been exposed to recruiting and anything like that, and kind of picked up pretty quick after that.
In regards to AAU, I know people harp on that so much nowadays. Has that changed at all? Has the landscape of AAU changed, whether it be in West Virginia or abroad? Has that changed at all from your perspective, just being around basketball so much?
Yeah, I think it's changed dramatically. I mean, when I was doing it, the majority of people who were putting the effort into having AAU teams were people who just wanted to help kids in their region, or just wanted, they probably had a son who was playing and they wanted to help him, and it just turned into a thing. Now it seems like there is an income stream from it, and I think it has been taken advantage of to where, even AAU teams who aren't taking their kids to these national tournaments and aren't getting them what they say they're going to, or charging parents crazy amount of money just to have their kid on it.
Going back to Morgantown, we'll spend a little bit of time on that, because I have a lot of respect for that program and what Dave Tallman's done currently. But take me back to your days as a Morgantown Mohegan. When you look back on that, what stands out to you that's probably more vivid than just the littler things that happened?
I learned a lot in high school. I played for an old school coach, Tom Yester, but I think he taught me a lot in what I was talking about. The European guys have an advantage over other guys, and this isn't saying that Tallman isn't by any means, but he really focused on the fundamentals, and stuff as silly it sounds as learning how to pivot or learning how to pass, and stuff people don't think about or don't see. And if you're going to go watch something flashy, you're not going to do or spend time on. So he really focused on those kinds of things, and I think learning those basics got me a long way with the style in which I was good at playing.
Now, if I told you what those games between University High were like, what were those games like?
They were a lot of fun.
A lot of wins, probably?
decent amount. They beat us my senior year once. I know they hold that over me, but I had a broken foot.
You didn't play through the broken foot?
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know it was broken until after the game.
So when you look at West Virginia basketball, and I always love talking with people about this, but I'm looking at the 2013 Class AAA Boys All-State list. I don't know if you looked at this recently. There are some dudes your senior year. You got yourself, Chase Connor from Shady Spring, who eventually went on to play at WVU, Luke Eddy from George Washington, Dante Neighbors from Woodrow Wilson. Second team, you had Rashad Kincaid from South Charleston, Rondell Watson from Greenbrier East, Trayvon Wesco, who eventually went on to play WVU football. The list can go on and on and on. I mean, Carrington Morris as well from Capital. When you look at the landscape of West Virginia high school basketball from when you were playing your senior season, that 2012-2013 season, to where it is now, what's different in your eyes?
That's a tough question. I'm not sure what's different. I just think, how do I put this? There's going to be those years every once in a while where everything just kind of aligns and, there's a bunch of good players in the state. Not that there's not now or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think someone you left off that list was Dante Grantham that went to Clemson over in Martinsburg. And, I mean, me and him, God, we played against each other all the time in the summers. I don't know. That's a good question that I've never really thought about.
So then, so take me back then to your senior season. You were able to play in the state tournament. That atmosphere and being able to be in a packed arena like that with so many other highly talented players, whether it be AAA, AA, single A. When you look back on playing in the Civic Center, I know a lot of people don't have the opportunity to play in that arena. What's different or what's magical about that place? Because you hear so often, especially from a lot of the older players, there's just, and I hear this consistently, I'm kind of paraphrasing, nothing beats stepping onto that floor for the very first time. You agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's your first time playing in an arena. You're playing in high school gyms your whole life. You've never experienced like the full circle stadium, nothing behind the backboards. Everybody says it's impossible to shoot in the Civic Center because it's a different visual behind the backboard. It's like when people go to the Final Four and you're playing in a massive stadium. It's just whenever there's a different thing behind the backboard, even though that's not what you're aiming at and you should be used to how far it is, it messes with your mind a little bit. It's intimidating. I think a lot of guys get nervous and it can be a thing for them. I think that's why teams that are successful are teams that have been there before and have guys with experience in it before, just because they know what to expect in the moment.
When you look at your game, I know you mentioned how your sophomore year you felt that was whenever you suddenly took basketball serious. What changed? What changed in regards to your game on the court in regards to from where you were as a sophomore to where you ended up as a senior before you even got to college? How did your game grow and develop?
It was really a confidence thing. Whenever you're not exposed to everything outside, you don't really know where you are. Like I knew I was good in West Virginia, but how far does that really get you?
And did AAU help with that at all?
Yeah, absolutely. That's when, I started traveling to all these tournaments. I started playing guys from all over the country. I start, being talked about in the top 100 in the country for our class, all that kind of stuff. You kind of get a confidence about you where you can let go a little bit and know that you're good enough, and then things really take off from there.
So in regards to West Virginia, we'll talk more about this coming up in our final segment, but in regards to West Virginia, when did they start coming onto the scene in high school for you?
Ooh, I can tell you exactly when I got a scholarship, but I don't know. So my freshman year, was it Coach Hahn? I think it was Coach Hahn started coming to a couple of my tournaments. And then after my sophomore year, at their elite camp, their team camp, whatever it was, I had a great camp, tournament, whatever you want to call it. And I remember just talking to Coach Hahn and him saying, we're going to get you a scholarship. And pretty much after that was when they really started coming to everything and things getting serious.
We'll talk more with West Virginia coming up in a second, but you mentioned Coach Hahn. Rest in peace to Coach Billy Hahn. When you look at him and just who he was as an individual and even as a coach, a really successful coach in the collegiate ranks, what separated him from other guys you were able to encounter just from a coaching perspective?
Coach Hahn's a special human being. You're not going to find many people where no matter where you go in the college basketball ranks, they know Coach Hahn. He's very well respected. He's been all over the country, coached all over many places. Everybody has a Coach Hahn story, and I think his reputation, his knowledge, his ability to connect with players really was something special.
Yeah, you mentioned that just in regards to what I've seen on social media. I think it was a week or two ago. I can't exactly remember, but Frank Fraschilla from ESPN posted something like an old photo. I can't remember what school it was at, but the two of them together, and I think it was on the anniversary of him passing away, and I was just like, everybody knows Billy Hahn.
Everybody knows Billy Hahn.
And you always see that one video of him in the TVT. I think you guys were going to
Richmond.
Yeah, Richmond, and he's shouting out the Pitbull song. What's the Hotel Service? That's what it is.
He was a special human. He had a knack for making everyone around him feel comfortable. Everybody around him have a good time, and he always knew how to put a smile on everybody's face.
Absolutely. Break to take here on the All Ears podcast. We're talking with former Mountaineer forward Nathan Adrian. We'll talk more about his time in Morgantown playing for Coach Huggins coming up here on the All Ears podcast.
HD Media Game Day is your streaming home for the best in live high school sports across West Virginia. Featuring football, basketball, soccer, and more, HD Media Game Day brings the action to you for free, exclusively on our YouTube channel and at hdmediagameday.com. When you can't make it to the game, HD Media Game Day has you covered.
Oh, good gravy. The kind made from real premium sausage. The kind that's smothered over deliciousness. The kind you can only get at Tudor's Biscuit World. That's the gravy that's oh so good. It's the perfect topping to your biscuits or your taters, and even makes a delicious side. It's oh so good gravy. Tudor's Biscuit World. We're dripping with oh good gravy.
Final segment here of the All Ears podcast. We're thankful that Nathan Adrian's able to join us in studio. Nathan is in town for the Charleston Scholarship Dinner, which is happening on Monday as we were recording this, April the 20th. And Nathan, talk to me about your time in Morgantown a little bit. I know we talked about Coach Hahn, but let's talk about Coach Huggins, because in the way that he coaches, an intense guy, obviously, people, especially whenever you were in college, people started understanding and getting to know him a lot more just from his philosophy and what he did defensively. But from his basketball mindset and his philosophy, what's your biggest takeaway from playing 4 years for a guy like Coach Huggins that, one, understands the state and the importance of WVU, but also being a guy like you that is from this state?
It was invaluable for me to play for him. He would make things so difficult for you that nothing else seemed like it was an issue. First day there, he pulls everybody in. He says it's going to be the hardest thing you're ever going to do. And he wasn't wrong. The point of his philosophy was, I'm going to break you down to the point where anything another team's going to do isn't going to affect you. And I think that teaches you a lot in basketball, teaches you a lot in life. There's a lot that's going to be thrown at you. He teaches you how to overcome it and persevere.
Now the treadmill, that treadmill mentality, how many times did you go on the treadmill?
Quite a few. Probably less than most, but definitely spent my time on there.
Who went on the treadmill the most?
Oh, God. Everybody had their turn on there.
Was there ever a moment in practice that what's a moment in practice that stands out to you, whether it be just a funny moment, an I get it moment, or even just a treadmill moment? Do you have one of those practice specific?
There's not really a specific one. I mean, you could get into, let's see here, my junior year. So usually by like the end of the year, you're ramping down practice. You're just kind of going in, shooting, working out, just kind of keeping everything polished. Mm-hmm. Where were we playing? Brooklyn. So we were in a little college in Brooklyn.
For the NCAA tournament?
For the NCAA tournament. It was 2 days before the game, maybe. We're an hour and 45 minutes into practice, a hard practice.
Right. And
he got mad and kicked us all out and made us go back later in the day and just start all over again and do the full 3 hours.
Now, was that whenever you guys played Notre Dame in the NCAA tournament?
No, that was when we lost Stephen F. Austin.
Okay. We won't talk about that.
Nope.
Nope, we won't do that. Anyway, I know we could talk specific games all day. We could sit here. We can probably go year by year, whether it be beating top 10 Kansas at home with the Jawan State and layup. We can talk beating Kansas and Baylor in about a month's span. But I want to talk about that specifically. To be able to be a part of such a historic run, which does not happen too often in college basketball. So being able to beat a number one team and then being another top 10 team like that, or top 5 team. Biggest recollection of that time period and being able to win 2 really key games and then moving up into the top 10 after that.
Yeah, I remember at that point in time, we were really just rolling for some reason. Everything was clicking. Everything was going well. And we felt like we could beat anybody. I remember the morning we woke up for the Baylor game. They were coming in number 1. You just kind of feel a buzz in the town. I remember looking at my roommate, James Long, and just saying, there's no way we're losing tonight. Just had a feeling, we were all playing well, playing together. And I think that really kind of started our run that year. Unfortunately, it ended in Sweet 16, but I thought that we were going to be able to do something real special that year.
Yeah, looking at your all schedule, you guys are coming into that game against number 1 Baylor on January the 10th after beating TCU by 12. But then before that, you guys only lost twice. You guys lost to Temple on November the 25th by 4, and then you lose in Lubbock to Texas Tech by 1. So 2 losses by 5 points. And then you win the Baylor game, you win at Texas by 2, and then all of a sudden you have a minor setback. You lose to at home to Oklahoma and then on the road at Kansas State by 6 points combined. Leading into that Kansas game then, playing number 2 Kansas, January the 24th, you guys win 85-69. How important of a win was that to beat Kansas after having 2 minor setbacks against Oklahoma and Kansas State?
Yeah, it was a big win. That's the thing about the Big 12, though. You can't take a day off. And sometimes after you get a big win, you kind of lose focus of what's happening. It's hard to – God, that was almost 10 years ago now.
Sorry to make you feel old.
Exactly what happened then. But, coming back, getting that win against Kansas, we were just tough to beat at home, especially when a good team came in. I think whenever a good team came in to Morgantown against us, there was just a little bit extra behind us that we wanted to get it done.
Yeah, you talk about that. I mean, only 2 losses at home that whole season, and they both came in Big 12 play. I'm looking at now Oklahoma, as I mentioned, and then a game against Oklahoma State on February the 4th. So, yeah, the importance of winning at home, and I think a lot of that too, and you can agree or disagree, but I think I know where you're going to go. I think in large part to that too is being able to relate to the fans in the state just by what you guys did with Press Virginia. Agreed?
Oh, absolutely. It's not an easy state to live in. I love it more than anything, but there's just not – you got to have a certain amount of grit to be able to make it around here. There's just not that many opportunities, unfortunately, and I think that whenever our football team or our basketball team kind of resembles that, I think that's when the state really gets behind them, and I think that's when they kind of, the fans and us, we feed off each other trying to accomplish a common goal.
Talk to me about Press Virginia, because that was invented and kind of brought up whenever you were in college with Coach Huggins. What do you remember about how that came about and how successful that was, just in the standpoint of you're in a very difficult conference in the Big 12. You're playing against a lot of guys that eventually played in the NBA, whether it be at Baylor or Kansas or wherever else. How did that come all about, and how did you kind of find your fitting in that system?
I think that was just Coach Huggs coming up with a savvy way to use what he had. Going into my sophomore year is when we started it. We had 7 or 8 guards that were all very good, could all play, could all guard really well. And if you're just going to play like a traditional half-court defense or more of a traditional style of basketball, you're not going to get them all in the game to where they can be effective. So he knew he had enough bodies that he could throw 10, 12 of us out there and there wouldn't be a drop-off. And that's the only way you can play in that style, because there's no way you're pressing for 40 minutes or doing what we were doing if you only had 8 guys who were going to go out there and compete.
Yeah, I'm looking at that roster. You're alluding to your sophomore season. That would have been the 2014-2015 season when you guys did beat Kansas at home off that Jawan State and layup. two seniors that year, Jawan and Gary Brown, each being the lone two. But then I'm just going through this. Jay Sean Page, dog. Jonathan Holden, dog. Javon, pretty good career.
Yeah.
Yourself, Daxter Miles, Devin Williams. I'm just looking through this right now. You talked about how you feel old. Dude, I feel old just looking at this now and thinking, like, this is how I grew up. And I'm just sitting here. I'm just like, man, we had, like, I feel as Mountaineer fans, you see this so much, especially I do. I see so much people talking about the good days, the good old days, as some people call it. You guys were rolling, especially from your sophomore season to your senior season.
Yeah, I mean, that was, a special time. I mean, it's not like, I think people get a little spoiled. We have runs like that, and then they're like, oh, we do this all the time. We've been to 11 Sweet 16s in the school's history. So for 2 of those to be in that span, and then one right after 3 of those in 4 years. So a quarter of our Sweet 16s in our school's history were in that 4-year span. And I think that's a testament to the guys that were there. It wasn't exactly just a bunch of highly recruited, highly touted players. It was a bunch of JUCOs, mix of lower recruited guys who just came together and found a way to make it happen.
When talking with Honor Huff, he talked about the bond that this past season's Mountaineer team had. And again, from looking from afar and looking back on it, it seemed like your all's bond was very apparent just by the way that you guys played for one another, whether it be in a half-court set or even the full-court Press Virginia set. Talk about that bond and the bond and the relationships that you were able to create. I know you mentioned James Long, who's the head basketball coach over at the University of Charleston. We mentioned Chase Connor, who's also in the state that played at West Virginia. The bond that you guys had, how unique was that, and how is that still prevalent to this day?
Yeah, I mean, it was just hard not to have that kind of bond then, to be honest with you. It wasn't always like happy, you're my best friend bond. It was, I'm going to run through a brick wall for you kind of thing. I can't tell you the number of disagreements, we'll call it, we had in practice, but at the end of the day, that's your brother beside you, and you're going to do whatever it takes to win for them. I don't know. I think there's something to say to it for teams that fight a little more than what you would think from the outside. You're only doing that if you're pretty tight.
So along that line then, and I'm very interested because I don't think I've ever asked anybody this before, but whenever you talk about the disagreements and being able to go through a brick wall for your brother, how do you go about channeling the emotions whenever you guys are in practice and then when you're away from the court and now you're just in a dormitory just hanging out or you're getting something to eat? How do you go about channeling that and being able to find that equal playing field per se?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I think it just kind of happens. I think we all grew up. A lot of guys at that time grew up in not the best situations. You know, they fought with their brothers, they fought with their friends, and you just come back and you're there. You're not getting rid of us. So we're all going to be around each other. Off the court, we never had any issues, never had any disagreements, but we all wanted to compete really hard. And when we started competing in practice, it didn't matter that we were on the same team anymore. You know, we were going to go at it mainly because of Hugs. I mean, if we didn't go at it, we were going on the treadmill. So if I got to hit you in the mouth to not go on the treadmill, I'm going to do it.
And I would assume you would agree as well, whenever you talk about those bonds, then being able to reconnect with them and being able to compete with them again in the TBT, I bet that was really special as well, being able to do that and get back with them the first time.
Absolutely. I mean, you lose touch, obviously. Everybody has their own lives. Everybody, especially in basketball, I mean, you leave, you either go back to where you came from, play overseas, different country. You're not going to see these guys as much anymore. So for the guys who kept playing, you know, we'd all kind of come back in the summer and everybody would be in Morgantown working out. And it was just always good to see them. Anytime you saw them, it was like, you just go right back to where you left off. That kind of relationship where things just don't change much.
A couple more questions for you and we'll get you out of here. But when you look back on all the guys that you played, I know I mentioned the roster from your sophomore year. From the guys that you played with at WVU, who's the guy in your mind that is probably one of the more underappreciated guys that you played with while at WVU?
Who I played with was definitely Tariq Phillip. I think he was just one of the better guards I ever played with. He played his balls off all the time, competed on defense, did everything he could on offense, would put his nose in anybody's face and didn't have a problem with it. I think he has had more success professionally than than what people thought because of that reason. He's extremely talented, but I think his grit and his will to win games has gotten him further than anything.
A couple of questions now about this current state of Mountaineer basketball with Coach Ross Hodge. They just finished his first season with 21 wins, got the championship and the college basketball crown. What impresses you about Coach Hodge from afar, from an alumni perspective, a guy that's from the state as well? What stands out to you about Ross Hodge right now?
I think he kind of gets what it takes to be successful here. It's his first year here, so there's something to learn still. But I think that he has made an effort to kind of understand what the university means to the state and what they need to do to compete. I just think once he gets the right guys and the right, figures out what he's looking for in recruiting to be able to compete in the Big 12, because that's a whole new beast that a new coach who's never coached in something like that has to learn what it is that he needs to do to win in this league too. So I think once he figures that out, he's going to be extremely successful.
Having a guy like that that's not from the state, he obviously has a connection with Ren Baker, the athletic director at WVU. But whenever you have an outside coach like that embodies the state, starts to understand the state's culture, the importance that the university has to the state, from your perspective, both as an in-state native and an alum, how important and how unique is that for you just to be able to see that from afar?
I just think it's very important. I think that we are a very welcoming people naturally. We want people to come here. We want people to enjoy it. We're going to be loyal to you to a fault. We're going to defend you no matter what. But on the flip side, if you leave or if you screw us over a little bit, I think we can all agree that you're going to see that passion on the other side of it.
Yeah.
I don't see too many Indiana posts that don't have a WVU fan under it.
That's very true. That's very true. Well, Nathan, we appreciate your time. Have fun tonight at the Charleston Scholarship Dinner at the Charleston Coliseum and Convention Center. We appreciate your time, and thanks for everything you did.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely. That's Nathan Adrian, former Mountaineer forward of West Virginia University. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Gazmail Sports. That's GAZ Mail Sports, on Facebook at HD Media Sports, and on YouTube at HD Media Game Day. Be sure to subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts as well, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and YouTube, just to stay up to date with this podcast moving forward as we go to once a week. And we will see you all next week with the latest edition of the All Ears Podcast. This is your host, Taylor Kennedy, signing off.
You have been listening to the All Ears Podcast, powered by HD Media.